Is this an adventure or what? We don't need unexplained phenomena. I hope you guys are enjoying this journey we're taking you on. I know you come expecting to hear about big cats, cryptids, UFOs. We will touch on some of that, but I think it's worth sharing some of this for you, don't you? There's only 2 living souls up here today.
Because I can see it in my mind, I can see it in my head what I saw, but I can't describe.
Our eyes was closed, like a brightish light in my face, and I just felt paralysed.
Someone said there's something out there, so we had a look. It looked like a walnut. That's the only way I can describe it.
It was like it had loads of tiny little windows all over it, and it had lights in those windows, but not a light that illuminates.
Anyway, we were ushered into this lounge. This fella came in, he said, whatever you saw was a weather effect.
And everything is deathly silent. There's no sea, there's no wind, there's no night noise, because, you know, there's foxes all over here. There's nothing.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Truth Proof Sunday night. It's hard not to say nothing, innit, after that lady's just finished. Hope you've all had a great weekend so far, and I hope you're looking forward to week ahead. I say that every week, don't I? And it's working it, so you're not going to be looking forward to it. But tonight, I'll get through a few stories that I've wanted to get through for last few weeks, but I want some questions in capital letters. Hopefully, 8 o'clock, we'll have somebody else to share some information with us in the form of Nathaniel Gillis. I spoke to him yesterday, and we talk from time to time, usually early hours at morning, and I asked him if he'd come on. So that's why I didn't put it on thumbnail, because I didn't want to put him on the spot, but you guys know now. So questions for Nathaniel, but not for, well, we might not even get to them because at speed I get through questions. So I hope you've all been good. Last night, I had a walk to Speeton via Hoddy Cow's Lane, and I want to tell you about that in a moment, as well as going up onto cliff tops and around Eastern North Yorkshire with Ian, Pete when he's well enough, Bob when he's well enough, and Chris and 2 or 3 other people, Steve. So, you know, it's becoming interesting. There's just other things that we're looking at now that have gone away practically from weird lights in the sky. Not that we don't want to see them. But anyway, I'm rambling, so let's just have a look who we've got in here. So I see Amelia, Space Cow, Stargazer, Jem's doing moderating for us, and Lee is. Keith, Wales, let's have a look. JG, Carl Dan, good to see you, Carl. I hope you and Sarah are okay. Tony Dixon, I think Mr. Linford and Linny will be in, and Mrs. Linny, Mia Girl, good to see you all. Let's have a look. Deborah and Kim King. Oh, it's always good to see you. And Lee Roscoe, we've done. Frank Wills, good to see you, Frank. I hope you get up here this year, but maybe, if not, you know, we'll meet at a conference. I'm sure we will. Gail Daniels, Pointer, and I'm going to have to stop. We've got like 250 people here, and you know I'm not going to do everybody, but as I say, fingers crossed, we'll get to Nathaniel around 8 o'clock time, if we last that long. But I'm sure we will. But I just want to get to questions, please, in capitals. And start right at the beginning if you want, because it helps me. But we've had some unusual activity on and around the area where we do a lot of observation. Some people call it research, but we spend a lot of time observing. We do set cameras up, as you know. Ian's just invested in 6 small cameras that he's going to set up. Obviously, we're going to get more, a couple of 360s, should we say, because they're quite wide angle. As well as the other night vision cameras, but we're not seeing the lights in the sky as much as what we were seeing before. I don't know if there's a reason for that. I mean, and a lot of it could have been man-made, a lot of it could have been military. I'm not ruling that out, but what we are seeing are lights on the ground on the way back earlier in the week. Ian had seen something, and we're not seeing them singularly usually, but I know that when one of our teams say they've seen something, they're not there just to make it up. They're not there just to BS, in the words of Chris Mack, is what happened last night, which were quite interesting, to be honest. We had a 6-mile walk, and just over 6 miles, and which absolutely made me puff and pant a bit. But that's beside the point. So I don't know, February. I think it was somewhere around February 2nd, a Monday night, maybe. I'm not certain if it were a Monday night, but we were we were up there and there were a flash of light on the side of the cliffs, and unusually unnerved Ian. And I'm not saying that he don't get frightened. I'm not saying any of us don't. I were unnerved last night with what happened. And but there's other times when you get an interaction with something as a collective and we all feel upbeat and quite happy about it, if that makes sense. And do I believe it's the same thing that's interacting? I think it quite possibly is. And I don't know why we get these different reactions. But we've had all sorts of things happening. And I'll jump now to last night. And we parked at what's in Buckton. And we walked up what's called Hoddy Cows Lane. And I realised that these locations, I say every week, don't I, that aren't going to mean a great deal to you guys, but you can Google them. It's a farm track, basically. Pretty sludgy as well, to be honest. I didn't expect it to be. So we walk up Hoddy Cows Lane, and that brings us up onto the cliff tops near Speeton. And from there, we take a left and we head towards... You wouldn't be going to the village of Speeton, but you parallel the village of Speeton. It'll be 3.5 miles. We get down there in the dark, and it's very hilly, really, really steep in places because you're going up to a rise of about 420 feet, which is the highest point above sea level around there. And we got to the trig point where we were a few weeks ago and did a bit of observing and stayed there. You're overlooking Filey and you can see Staxton Wold in the distance. But we carried on. We went towards what's called Black Cliff, not as in a name, a cliff. And it's clay. It's a rich black clay that's full of fossils. Years and years ago, there used to be a group that they went on internet before you'd got this sort of mass migration of internet information. And they had a little website called the Friends of Speeton Clay. And there's all sorts of fossils in it. But anyway, that's not what I'm talking about. We carried on walking towards Blackcliff, further than we'd ever walked previously. And I started on camera telling this little story about the guy who'd, in fact, I'll tell you guys. So I'm on top of the cliffs in a location where this was seen. And we're jumping back to 2019. And I think we're jumping back to November the 12th. I know we are. November the 12th, 2019. Because it were 2 days before myself and Lee Haywood saw the big orange sphere of light on the cliff tops. And Lee'll back me up all day long about that because he was blown away by what he saw. And this were 2 days before. But we didn't know that at the time. But during abstinence, shall we call it, when nobody could go out, so you all know when, myself and Bob Brown decided we were going to park up at a farm. There's a farmer that we know, so we won't be bothering anybody, park it on his land and walk across the farmland onto the cliff tops. Told this story before, but it'll help with what happened. So we parked on cliff tops. There's a guy comes walking past with a dog, a gun dog. Asked us how we were doing. Were we looking at seabirds? We didn't tell him we weren't. We didn't tell him we were. And that was the course of the night. Carried on walking down towards Flamborough. I don't know, 3/4 of an hour later, he returns. But it's dark. So he obviously knows we're not looking at seabirds. And he asks us, what are you doing, lads? You know, I'm kind of curious. So we told him that we're interested in the strange lights that have been seen over the sea, unexplained phenomena. And he proceeded to showed mild interest. And he was just about to go when Bob said, have you seen any unusual animals? And he said, well, what do you mean? He says, well, there's been a cat reported up here, big black cat. So he told his dog to sit down. He says, right, you've asked me this. He says, I'm going to tell you. I haven't even told my wife. So then he goes on to tell us this story that went back to 2019, 2 days before me and Lee Haywood saw the sphere of light, but we wouldn't have known at the time. Says, I parked at Reeton because I live in the little village or somewhere close, walked onto the beach and it was a full moon. So that's how we could date it. He says, I walked along the beach and everything's in moonlight, lovely clear night. He says, and he went on to explain how his dog is very clever. And if it sees a rabbit, it has a certain stance. And he knows if it's seen a pheasant because it's got a different kind of stance. He understood his dog. But on this night, his dog's looking at something up on the cliff where we were stood last night. So you know where we're going. We didn't see that, by the way, but so I'm not going to crush the story straight away, but there we go. So he sees something his dog's seen something. He looks up on the cliff and he can see the outline of something that looks like it's as big as a really big goat or a pony, you know, Shetland pony or something. One sec. He's watching it. He's sort of intrigued because it's on edge of cliff. It's not safe, is it? Let's face it. And then he said it stood on two legs and he could see the silhouette of it and it's looking down at him. And I know what you're thinking, people. If you don't believe in this kind of thing, then give your heads a shake and walk away, because I'm not going to deny these stories just because some people don't want to listen to them. There's enough people reporting this stuff to me who've got absolutely 100% nothing to gain, yet they still keep doing it. So let me jump off my soapbox there and let's just carry on. He said, do you know what it reminded me of? And we already knew because we'd had some like reports similar. And he said it looked like the werewolf of the Harry Potter film. And I said, didn't you feel frightened? He said, I couldn't even see its face. I could just see a silhouette. And it turned and ran away. We know something like that does not exist on these cliff tops. So then other people are going to be shouting, well, why are you talking about it then, Paul? Why are you saying it? Because something does exist, but it's from some kind of paranormal realm. So it's the true unexplained realm. That's where it's from. I mean, and don't ask me how, but there's no way that something could evade detection up there, what people are describing. But there's enough people talked about this in the forests of East and North Yorkshire. Well, not the forests of East Yorkshire, but in the forests of North Yorkshire, along the coastline from East Yorkshire right up to Kettleness and past Sands End, all the way up. There's reports of this kind of thing. And long before I started reporting it and talking about it. So, you know, I'm just the messenger here. And so that was that. I told the story. I just went to camera and I thought, well, this is a good place. This is about where this man would have seen it. Pitch black, got a light on, turned the camera off, and we're walking back. We decided to walk back, and I think we'd done about 3.5 miles at that time. And we're walking back along the cliff tops, and there's no cameras on. And I've put the torch on. Chris has got an headlight on. I've already spoke to Chris because he's I don't mean he's camera shy, but he's not bothered about whether he goes on camera or not, really. So I just said, am I okay? And I just want to put a minute of our conversation on, because I put the camera on, the torch on, and in the distance, not far away, there's the fence line running all the way along the top of the cliffs. Half of it's not got any wire on or fencing on, and you're straight down to between 300 and 400 foot cliffs. And there's something there. There's something stood near one of the posts that's quite tall. And I said, there's somebody stood there, look, can you see them? And we're not looking miles away. And Chris says, well, is it a post? What is it? We don't know. And I jokingly said, if I turn torch off and turn it back on, it'll be gone. What do you think happened? I turned torch off, turned it back on, and it had gone. And that did unnerve me. I'm not going to deny it. So I just put this bit of footage on. You're not going to see it because I've no proof other than this, which what I'm doing now. But you can hear us talking about it probably 5 minutes after. Now it's only a minute because we talked about it for probably all journey home. Right, there you go. That we were here where these are at the beginning. Chris is just explaining that we were here where these posts are. It was here. And it looked like something from behind. But compared to that post, how tall would you have said it was?
Sort of where I am.
Careful there, Chris. Yeah.
6 foot. I've seen the post, and then this thing stood up, you know, here at the back of it, taller.
And at the risk of repeating myself over and over again, I genuinely did say, I'll put the torch off, put it back on, and I was joking, and it'll be gone. And it was. Because we thought it was something explainable, but I just don't have an explanation.
You said to me, didn't you, what's that? And I said, oh, I think it's a post.
Yeah.
You said, yeah, well, wouldn't it be funny if it had gone when we put the light back on.
And I put it on within.
It wasn't even out. It's about 3 or 4 seconds.
Yeah.
2 steps, wasn't it?
Yeah. I mean, there's all these little divots and things. I mean, you wouldn't dare go down them. But I'm just amazed. I'm blown away, to be honest, because I don't mind saying I got a little shiver of fear because there was something stood there. There you go. No proof, have I? I ain't got it on film. You've just got my word for that. You've only got my word and Ian's word and Pete's word and everybody else, Chris, that these things are happening. We've got a lot of footage of lights and strange anomalies, but it's almost like there's an observer effect taking place here. It's almost like we, and I don't mean we're special, I mean everybody who's looking for some of this or maybe having a little taste of it. The more you become involved in it, the more you concentrate on it, the more of it that you begin to see. That was strange last night. I've got to admit that were really strange. You know, I've got no explanation for why we looked at it. It clearly weren't the post because it were a lot bigger. It looked like the back, but all one colour, and the head and the shoulder, and a body going down. And I mean, I did pass comment to Chris. I mean, anybody who saw that bit of footage that Jeremy took with his thermal, it looked a bit like that, to be honest. And I can't explain it. So that was that. So there you go. You've make of that what you will. It's just a strange one, but it just shows you don't want to be up there on your own. And quite honestly, the edge of those posts there, because a lot of cliffs over the years of sort of the receding, like my hair, you know, you're straight over. But anyway, let's have a look. What's this say? Beer Monster. Paul, can I give you a big shout out to Philip? Yes, I can. And Philip, I'm not sure you'll be listening to this, and I did message your wife earlier in the week and wished you all the best and a speedy recovery. And yeah, for everybody who knows Philip Mantle, Flying Disc Press, and all the books that he's produced and all the work that he's done over the years, you know, Philip's not very well at the moment, so let's all send him some nice thoughts. So yeah, thank you, Beer Monster, man after my own heart, the old Beer Monster. Let's have a look. It's great, isn't it? Paul, do you see the light phenomena more or less when wars start off? Wow. I wouldn't know. I mean, let's face it, Rod, there's wars all over the world, and I suppose wherever that conflict is, that's the most important thing to that nation. So it's hard to say, isn't it? But it'd be interesting. I mean, I suppose we're all hoping and wishing for something, aren't we? For the good, by the way. But I don't know. It'd be interesting if anybody, you know, because you'd have to invest a lot of time in that, Rod, wouldn't you? You know, you'd have to invest an awful lot of time to discover whether during times of conflict that, you know, the phenomena ramps up. But I know I did a short, probably 18 months ago, 2 years ago, and in it I touched on the fact that during conflict, right back to the Roman times and before, people had documented, you know, scribes had documented seeing shields in the sky and you know, their words of the time, you know, and so it does, if there's extreme conflict in the world, it makes you wonder. And it also looked, from the information that I'd gathered when I did that short, that it favoured certain factions of the warring sides. Now, there's a frightening thought, isn't it, with what's things that are happening in the world today. So, well, I think it is anyway. Let's have a look, see if there's any more. See, Fortian's in. Pete, I hope you're feeling all right, mate. I think Pete will be in. Ginge, Maverick. Let's have a look. I'm running down these just in case we have too large. Right, it's not even a question that, but I bet you found them. Yeah, there you go. We have two large Annamite fossils. I've seen those fossils as well by the fireplace. I think you sent me pictures of them because that's what made me really interested in the fossils at Spayton. Yeah, got it. Thank you. Let's have a look. Right, Stephen Collin. Paul, as long as Caton Carr's watercourse. I was along Caton Carr's watercourse last Thursday night. Small little dancing orbs above the water. Wow, that's interesting, Steve. And once again, me and Stefan, I call him Steve, we do plan to park up at Caton Carr's, and as in the wetlands, nothing to do with cars, CARRS, and walk along the dikes of the old lake bed, which would have been Lake Flixton, going towards Lake Pickering. That should be brilliant. And little lights above water. I mean, there's a lot of people could interpret that as earth lights, or as I spoke to, James Coppett, when they were talking about the River Derwent, when we walked along that area of Old Man's Mouth, and he said that in the summertime, when the vegetation's rotting, you see lights around the water there, but it's explainable. It's gases and things. I'm not saying that's what that was, Steve, but it's interesting. Right, what's this? Is somebody taking mick of me here? Let's have a look. Like Ronnie Corbett sat in his chair talking 3 hours to get the punchline, Paul. Yeah, that's me, Simon. Yeah. Never take yourself too seriously, Simon. That's what you've got to do. Yeah. There's a song about your name. There we go. All right, in uppercase, please. No, thanks, Simon. I like a laugh. Everybody knows that. Let's welcome everybody. Let's have a look what we've done here. Good evening, everyone. Let's have a look. I'm going down these questions, people. There might not be any. Let's have a look. Crazy, you can tell Paul's voice in that video. Oh, yeah, that's good. Thank you, Lee. All right. Did you get any chance to have a look at the thermal? No, to be honest, Fortian. No, I'd got the thermal in my pocket. I'd got a GoPro on an harness on my chest, and I'd got the DJI in my hand, and I weren't using any of them. And a rucksack on. You just can't. Do you know what I mean? Occasionally we would stop and we'd have a look with thermal. We'd have a look with DJI. I'll tell you what, though, Fortian, after we'd seen it, the thermal were on right till we got halfway down Hoddy Cows, and we were scanning round. I don't mean we were absolutely frightened, but it was so strange. It were really strange. And I mean, Chris is in chat. I did message him to see if it were okay to put that bit of footage on. And, you know, he said, okay, it were fine. But I just because I knew he was as baffled as me. It were there. There was something there. And this is the thing. It can't be real, can it? Are our minds being manipulated in some way? Is there an observer effect with the phenomena? You know, it kind of makes you wonder, doesn't it? You start talking about seeing shadow figures, and then for months we see them. Something else. It's almost as though something else comes into vogue. I'd just been talking about that account, and then we see that, but it didn't look like anything apart from the shape of a person, really. And if I were going to guess, I mean, Chris is in chat. It kind of looked brown, a grey-brown colour, but you couldn't discern legs. You could just discern a head and shoulders. It went down. That's about it. But no, we didn't have a chance to look at it in thermal, and I'd got the psionics with me as well, but didn't get to see it. Let's have a look. And right, let's have a look here. Paul, from the lights in the sky in the distance to the closer cliff tops to buzzing around you, close-up shadow figures bringing down the light, maybe, please. Please be careful. Well, I think we've all got to be careful, haven't we? You know, but I still stand by the fact that we've probably got more to fear from human beings than the phenomena, unless there's some kind of health effects from being too close to it. Do you know what I'm saying? But you know, we jump back to it, or I jump back to it every time now, and we talk about that light that visited us. There's no other word for it. And that didn't feel frightening. That didn't feel hostile. That felt amazing. But yeah, you never take anything for granted. I do agree. We have got to be careful. Let's have a look here. All right, let's have a look. Simon said it before, but the nighttime doesn't belong to us. Yeah, you make a good point. Do you know, myself and Ian, how long since? I mean, I'm saying it as though he can answer me in chat there, but probably 3 weeks ago, we visited Willie Howe during the night, parked up and sort of had a little walk around the burial mound, and then went inside it, turned the lights off. And you know, there's a reverence, there's a feeling to it, an atmosphere. You know, like you get you know what I mean, don't you? Everybody knows what I mean. You know, when you stand in a church and you feel that it's like an inner sanctum, or certain places you just feel special. That's how Willie Howe felt. I don't know whether Steve Collin felt that when he goes to it, but that's how it felt to me, Andy, and I think it were good. I like these questions. Thank you. Have you thought about correlating UAP phases of the moon? Yeah, David Caton. I've met David. David's a great guy. Somebody we ought to get back on live stream. I think he's been on twice. And yeah, it would be good. I mean, I've been thinking about trying to correlate, is the word, all of the sightings, because I've got hundreds and hundreds of sightings now from around eastern North Yorkshire. And I think there's enough data. I know myself and Martin were doing the stratification tool that either needs scrapping or simplifying. I think Martin would agree. But I've been thinking about all of these cases, because I bet there's patterns there, you know. I bet there's patterns within like you're just doing the phases of the moon, the month, the weather conditions, the tides, even. You know, are the cycles of the tide and high tide and low tide somehow creating energy underneath those rocks? It's hard to say, but there's loads of things that could be responsible for some of this unexplained phenomena that could then be explainable, and it could be perfectly earthbound. And although I tell you now, in my opinion, let's see, Clifftop Pete, there you are, mate. Good to see you. Ian Passy, Mel Suter, good to see you, Mel. Where I've lost my thread now. In my opinion, like some of this is definitely not earthbound. That light is pointing question that visited 7 of us, because that was just weird. That was weird and special. Right, let's have a look. Is this a question from Lee? Question: did you think or feel, Paul, the subject was drawing you to the edge? Edge of the cliff. No, I didn't. I just said to Chris, and Chris is aware of it, by the way. Chris he's been a rock angler. He fishes the beaches and does a lot of coarse fishing, so he's aware of but it's just me being overcautious when I said be careful, Chris. You know, on edge, because there's no way up from them cliffs. That's lights out, and whatever we saw, like Chris said, I took a few paces, turned the torch off, took a few paces, and put it back on, and it had gone. Couldn't have gone anywhere. It's whatever it is that's interacting. It's just, it's not sort of natural to terra firma. It's not something that's like you'd see a fox and you'd look in distance and you'd say, oh, there it is, or something like that. You know what I mean. So let's just do this. No, I didn't feel drawn to edge, and which is something I never want to feel drawn to be honest with you. Let's have a look. I was at Beeford with Cryptic Kitty last weekend. We thought we had spotted 6 aligned planets, but then, okay, something else. I'm imagining. Beeford's. Did you say Beeford? Yeah, Beeford's an interesting place. I've had quite a few reports from Beeford. One of them a really, really interesting UFO sighting. Let's just put it like that. And as you leave Beeford, you come to what? Well, obviously, it's self-explanatory. The Beeford Strait, and you come to a place called Whalley Cross. And I have to look why it's called Whalley Cross. I don't know whether it's a crossroads, but there's UFOs and strange lights and talk of lights pursuing cars, as in they see the light in the mirror behind them during the night. So yeah, it's an interesting place, Beeford. And once again, it's all close. Everything's relative. Let's have a look here. Christopher, let's have a look. I have actually seen a UFO, Paul. Paul has seen on his introduction to Truth Proof, all the way from Hull. Thank you. That's good. There's Michael Turnbull. Good to see you, Michael. Dizzy Doors. Let's have a look. Mark Buck. I'm doing these questions. I hope people are vetting these questions generally, because I don't really Beeford. I've just gone down and it's come back round that. Let's have a look. Hi, Paul. Hoping to be at Speeton next week and fossil hunting. Right. Husband has heard some more of Black Cliffs have come down. Yeah, that's interesting. I might go down there myself. I went down one day because it's forever moving, this clay. And it's a real dark grey, the clay. I mean, Pointer will know about this. I'm sorry for saying it like that, because I know you've got first names. But I've been down there when pieces have rolled off and they're as big as a bus. They're huge. And you can go down a few tides later and the sea's just demolished it. But it's like toffee to dig into. But let me know when you're going. If I've got time, I'd like to come down and have a few pointers. Pardon the pun, on how best to get these fossils. Yeah, I am funny, at times. Let's have a look. Right, Professor Simon reckons the MOD USA have opened a portal accidentally or on purpose. Places like Rendlesham using experimental technology that could explain strange things. What do you think? Excuse me. I suppose anything's possible. My words, I don't know. If this guy, Professor Simon, and I did contact him before Christmas, he said he'd come on the live stream and share some of his work with us. So I'll have to chase him up. I'd love to know how he knows that, you know. But then again, when we made Bringing Down the Light, we had a military guy that were going in the film with us, and he told us that his reason for being in Bringing Down the Light was because he'd spent a lot of time around Eastern North Yorkshire, trying to observe and document unexplained phenomena. So the people, if you've watched Bringing Down the Light, you'll know what I mean with that bit of. It's not really information, is it? I see somebody called Lawson in then. Lawson Richards. Yes, I think me and you've got to talk, mate, haven't we? Because I think you've got some. Well, I know you've got something interesting to share, so that might be worth following up. I know the story. Phil Turner. Paul, have you ever been out with Bobster and he's got really spooked about something but couldn't sense anything out of the ordinary? Yes. Usually if I've got anything that contains chicken, he gets a bit spooked because he knows it's in my bag. And but joking aside, only once in Danes Dyke of all places, on the side before you just leave to go out at the exit, and he didn't want to come into that part of the woods. Well, when Dave Barker, it's going back a few years, Dave Barker contacted me to tell me that I think there were 2 deer in trees and up in the dike and around that area. And I went up one afternoon and I couldn't find them at first. I were in the wrong spot, but I eventually found them a few days later. But Bobby, he didn't want to come in that area. Whether I don't know. I don't think it would have been smell that were putting him off or anything. I don't know. Just didn't like it. But dogs are perceptive, aren't they? You know, that all animals are, I suppose. If you remember when James Coppett were on a few weeks ago, he was sat with his cat. And before we went live, his cat just suddenly fixed on something. I'm not saying it was spirit or ghost, but it's almost as though they can see something we can't see. It is interesting. So let's have a look. Dragonborn. Let's have a go at this. If you're going to do Phase of the Moon, you might as well add the solstice and equinox, because those are powerful times too. Yeah, absolutely. And there's this person, this lady's got lots of knowledge and all of that, so I'll probably be bending your ear for some of that information as well. But a lot of it's time with me, you know, time to do all of these things. I mean, I'm quite happy. I don't mean for somebody to do the work, because I do a lot, but there's only so much that one person can fit in. I mean, Don, who does the website with me, you know, he suggested that we do a diary of everything up at Bempton, Eastern North Yorkshire, Speeton, every time. And it's just coming back and writing it all up, because you know, when you come back and it's late at night and then next day you've got loads to do. And I sound like I'm moaning, but you just can't fit everything in. Right, let's have a look. Shadow, add the correlation of sightings to ley line. There you go. I mean, there's so much. I mean, that's it. That would be probably, Shadow, a full-time job for somebody, wouldn't it? But there's enough data there. There's enough sightings. I know there's enough sightings to look for patterns. I'm absolutely certain there's got to be hundreds and hundreds of sightings. And it would be so interesting if they started showing up certain traits that we could then identify and probably get to those areas with the potential that something might happen. Yeah, absolutely. Let's have a look. I can't believe time. I was going to do some of these stories. I've been trying to link ley lines to earthworks to sightings. Never seen out. Yep. Okay. Let's see why not, mate. And Mika, you're right, Paul. Willie Howe is the most magical place I've ever been to. It really is. And do you know, even way back in late 1800s, when the guy who was excavating them, doing all the excavations on earthworks all over Eastern North Yorkshire, which was Canon Greenwell, and he some of the mounds and tumuli he did with a man called Pitt Rivers, and he obviously he documented what they found allegedly, but that's what happened. So he did lots all around Eastern North Yorkshire. Where am I going with this? However, he only added one reference to a burial mound having almost magical properties, and that was Willie Howe. He said it's got the aura and the presence like nothing he'd ever worked on before. And he'd worked on Danes Dyke as well, and they'd done Duggleby Howe, and I think Elf Howe and Spell Howe all around North Yorkshire and East Yorkshire. So yeah, the place is special. Yeah. Let's have a look. Stephen, Paul, is there? I was at Willie Howe last Tuesday, and there was a deceased fox just near the top. Very sad, but for myself, it's a surreal place. It really is. Yeah, it really is. Yep. Michael Turnbull. Let's have a look. I'm inspired now and look for the big cats. Do you know, I think we could look for the big cats, Christopher, for forever and a day, and I don't think we're going to find them. I think it's pure. I don't mean to dampen your enthusiasm either, because I do it, don't I? I get in these forests with Chris Wright, and we go all over, and I don't want to stop doing it, not anytime soon. But I think the chances of seeing them, we'd have to set a blind up and sit there and observe days, maybe weeks. And trail cams are invaluable for that as well, let's face it. So they're out there. They're definitely there. I got a report of one at Leven only a few weeks ago. And I'm not going to show the photographs on here. Linny knows what I'm talking about. Mark might know, and Pete does. But Mark has a friend who comes on clifftops with us, and he's got some incredible pictures of a big cat. Looks like a puma. And I've got the pictures. They've sent them to me. I've spoke to the man. I've not even asked. I'm not going to insult them. Not insult, but I'm not going to, I don't know, just kind of worry him by saying, oh, do you mind if I show these pictures? Because one thing leads to another. And before you know it, the location's exposed. Well, potentially, let's put it that way. And I've seen these pictures. I think there's about 6, and they're really good. And they're not at a distance where you think, well, grass is as tall as this cat, and it's somebody's big moggy. This is a big cat. And I've got some footage of one as well, walking across a field, which I've never played, never showed. But anyway, that's, yeah, it's fascinating, isn't it? Let's have a look. I was trying to get my drone following me through Danes Dyke yesterday. Have you considered using one, or is there anything else you'd like to add? I've got 2 drones. I've got one of those Neo. Is it a Neo? That follows you. Well, they all follow you, don't they? But that little Neo follows you. That's quite good. We used it in forests in North Yorkshire. That were good. Although it's not. If you have to jump down, it stays in one place. You have to go back up and get it. It's too fast for it. Maybe I've got it too close to me. I'm not familiar, and I've got a good one, a pro one. But I've got to admit, I'm pretty useless with drones. Let's face it. It's no good pretending that I'm anything other than that. So let's just go down here. Let's have a look. Is there anything else that we'd like to add to us, Kit? Yeah, better cameras. We had a doubt. That's a good question that I just sort of passed over there. Because we've got good cameras. We've got good thermal cameras. Got good night vision cameras. But it's all within a budget, isn't it? I mean, if you'd got, I wouldn't say an unlimited budget, but if you'd got a lot of money where you could fix cameras up and have them running, then that would be great. I'll tell you what, there's a fixed cam at Flamborough, and when I came in last night, I'd got an email from somebody that said they'd seen some unusual lights on it, but you can only scroll back for 12 hours, and it were too late. It were impossible to see them. But if you're watching this, I do appreciate you sending me that information. So there you go. Let's right. Has there been right? Let's have a look. Right. Has there been any uptake on UFO sightings? Now there is an active... Oh, well, we've done this one, haven't we? No, I don't think that I'm... you know what I mean? No, I wouldn't know. And I think somebody said the other day, and if I'm wrong, Chris, then please don't jump all over me for this, but Chris Bledstow, I think, allegedly has said that we're going to see an increase in orbs and sightings. And interesting man, let's put it that way. Chris Bledstow wrote the book, The UFO of God, after having a profound experience. Somebody I'd like to get on live stream, to be honest. But anyway, uptake on UFOs. All right, let's have a look. Are you feeding something with your energy? I think we all could be. Do you think, people are looking to the stars for I don't know, evidence of life elsewhere, but I think it's here. It could be right outside of me now or you guys. I think it's it. I think it's. Oh, let me get rid of that, as it's going to. My computer's going to update. No thanks. That'd be great, wouldn't it? I think it's here. How many times? How impossible is it? Is for some type of intelligence, not necessarily extraterrestrial, to be here? You hear of people saying, "A voice spoke to me," just out of the ether. A voice spoke to me. Usually, I don't know, during times of stress or, times of sorrow, sometimes elation, I suppose. But it shows there's an intelligence here. If me and Chris didn't imagine that last night, and we were up there, we weren't up there with cameras just to film unexplained phenomena. Just fancied a long night walk. I mean, bloody hell, it's really, really steep up there, to be honest. Hard going, but worth it when you get to the top. But turning around and seeing a figure stood against a post and then turning your torch off and a few seconds later turning it back on, it's gone. There's something here, isn't there? Is it? I know that's not what you asked, Ian, but is it feeding your energy? Are you feeding something with your energy? I think we could be. People get runs of bad luck, runs of good luck, don't they? And I don't know. It's difficult to say, but you do feel sapped sometimes and feel drained, and you can feel the ominous air of things around you, can't you? And I don't necessarily mean where we do our bit of research and observation. I mean everywhere people feel it, don't they? But I wish I'd got more answers for you, And what's this? Paul Sinclair saw a huge craft and it was circular and a piece came off like pizza slice. Came down and help us to come down and help us. Okay, it's interesting. All right, let's have a look. And I'm doing this, and I've got some things to share with you guys, but it's not coming to it, is it, people? It's not coming to it. Let's just have a look. Well, Paul, voice recorder for the diary, then write later update. Maybe pass onto himself. A great idea. That's a good idea, Lee, because I've got a couple of voice recorders, just to add a few lines, because it's difficult. I mean, tonight when I was talking about the lights that we've been seeing, and I think it was February the 2nd, and Ian saw one that unnerved him. I had to go back to when I'd downloaded a bit of footage of us talking about it, which would have been on the Wednesday. And then I realised the Monday, that's the 2nd, so that's when it must have happened. And it's a good idea because we're missing so much. And it was Don's idea to do this diary, and I think it's a great idea. Don comes up with some good things. And anybody who's not looked at Don Lodge's paintings, you want to look, because his artwork's just incredible. Right, let's have a look. What's your thoughts on earth energies and connection with the paranormal? I think there's probably something to that. We'll get Mark Anderson on here in the next few weeks, if possible, if you want to do that, Mark. I think there's definitely connections to that, Mark. Probably good and bad. Do you think it's the mood of the person and the intent that somebody goes into an area with or goes to a certain location with that sort of decides the outcome or the experience that a person's going to have? There's definitely an observer effect going off, and I think anyway. Do we have any ultraviolet cameras? I've got one. Yeah, myself and Chris Turner bought one each, and I bought a Canon, and I've not used it hardly. I've not used it. The thing is, we were talking about this probably on Friday night on way home, myself and Ian, that because I jokingly said we're going to need a barrow for stuff that we're taking down there. And they run about one of them trolleys that you can drag, because we do have a lot of kit that we take down there. Imagine you're setting 7 cameras up, fixed cameras. You take some warm to drink, then you've got your thermal camera. You've got that Sony's VX2100, open light's going to be favourable. You've got the psionics, all sorts of things, EMF meters, radiation meter, all sorts of things. And it's crazy. It's not a laboratory. You're on a cliff top, and if it starts to get damp or because you're right on edge at North Sea, so as soon as you get a bit of moisture in air, everything gets wet through. So apart from your water sealed cameras, everything has to go away. And then Then you've got the point where, and nobody else has done it. I've done this twice, where I've actually left cameras on cliff tops. And that's an horrible feeling, I'll be honest with you. That's absolutely soul destroying. Once I got home, I'd made myself a drink of tea. I'm sat in house just having it. And suddenly I got a little image popped in my mind of this camera that I'd left hung on the back of a seat right down cliffs. So after midnight, and I rang Pete, and Pete's in chat now, and I just told him what I'd done, and he says I'll be there. And me and Pete went and walked along for it, and I left one a few months ago. It was one on cheap night vision, but it still wouldn't have been there next day, so I had to go back and get it. Once again, Pete came to the rescue. Yeah, thanks, Pete. And God, it's horrible. Well, if I'd have left out last night after what we'd seen on cliff tops, even though it would have just outlined as something, it should have been there next day. I wouldn't have been going for it. Thank you, Nigel. Appreciated. Chris Bledsoe, let's have a look. What's this? Chris Bledsoe likes Flight Radar 24, it seems. Okay, mate. I didn't know that, but there you go. Intraterrestrial, perhaps. Rather, yeah, intraterrestrial, yeah. I don't know whether it's ever been said, whether I'd coined the word the innerverse. As you got the universe, the innerverse, and obviously, and I know that I talk about the potential for some intelligence to live below the sea, and I called that the sub-universe, the submerged universe. Obviously, because we know absolutely zilch about what's beneath the oceans of the world compared to what we know about what's the moon. It's crazy. And right, I want to just stop this for a minute because I'm aware that hopefully Nathaniel will come on in next 15 minutes or so, and I just want to cover this little story. It's more of a feeling that people got than an actual sighting. And he's entitled it Dogman or Wolf Creature. So obviously they thought they'd seen something. Hello, my name is Neil. I'm an ex-infantry soldier who served in Afghanistan and Iraq and many other countries around the world. My story is mad. I was on a training exercise in Brecon. At the time, I was on recon, as in reconnaissance. This involved a 4-man team being dropped off at a set location and building a secret hide / camouflage and just being in that position watching a target. We had night vision, infrared equipment, but we only had blanks in our weapons, okay? During the night, we had a feeling that the pine forest we were in wasn't good. So once again, you're coming back to that, aren't you? You've got trained military personnel who need to go on a little bit more than strange feelings of foreboding, although always go with your guts. But they'd already got this feeling that it wasn't good. And they're not in a war zone. They're not in conflict, are they? Let's face it, they're Brecons. So we found the remains of sheep in the woods, and they weren't in a good state. And it said when they looked at them, it was as though something as big as a bear had been around these sheep. So I don't have to go into graphic detail, do I? Bear could have been responsible. We couldn't move for 2 nights. That was our orders. We had to watch a road from the forest. On the first night, something triggered our trip flares. By that, I don't just mean one flare, I mean all of them. Then he says, we took turns to stay awake on stag. You could hear something moving around us. We were very camouflaged and we were in a hole in the ground. Yet whatever it was knew exactly where we were. These are more than stories. I know it's a story because I'm telling it to you guys, but this is a proper life experience that this man's relaying that unnerved him. The next day, we set the last few trip flares that we had. We knew something was stalking us, and it wasn't a nice feeling. Now, these are soldiers, right? We made spears and sharp stakes, and we positioned them all around our position. Obviously, this would give away our position, but we didn't care at this point. So that's how strong they felt that something unnatural was around them. On night 2, the same again. That night, we could hear branches snapping. But when you looked in night vision, you always felt that you were too slow to catch whatever it was that was moving around us. This reminds me of Paul Dorr, who's been on live stream. Paul, who does the bushcrafting, great guy, and his friend Ray, and they were in Wycombe Forest in North Yorkshire, and there were more than Paul and Ray. There were about 4 or 5 of them doing a wild camp, and all of them throughout the day were aware of something strange moving around them. So that's interesting. Obviously, it's not the same. We're in a different location, but we'll not do Paul Dawes sighting, but it's interesting. Right, they made the spears. The next, right, trip flares, blah, blah, blah. The next day, right, let's have a look. I've tripped myself up here. When we looked in our night vision and we were too slow to catch it, even infrared, you couldn't get a clear picture of it. So they'd sound like they've seen something, okay? But it was out there. One lad said he saw eyes 30 metres out. Our sergeant came the next day and couldn't believe we'd used all our trip flares. And when he saw the spears and spikes around our position, he jokingly said, "Were you expecting a lion?" None of us laughed. He could see we weren't happy. We were shook up. Bearing in mind, we were good soldiers with multiple tours in Afghanistan and Iraq and many other countries' deployments. We stayed in an abandoned farmhouse the night after, and we all felt happy having stone walls around us. Okay, he's not come out with a story of a true cryptid sighting or given us anything apart from the inference that there's definitely something out there and something unnatural out there. So that's fascinating. Love accounts like that. We might not get to all questions here, guys, but let's have a look. Right. And I know there's not going to be one relating to that because we're still dealing with this stuff. Paul, the genie grants you one question. Right, Paul, let's assume the genie grants you one question that will answer truthfully. What's your question? It's a great question, isn't it? I'd probably ask for another 10. I'm only joking. I'd probably ask, because I'm so focused on what I'm doing now, why they did what they did to me in childhood. There's got to be a reason. You don't do that. You don't subject a small child to that fear for nothing. And I'd always want to know that question or that reason. I'm never going to get it, am I? But thank you. Let's have a look. Paul, would you ever consider using a spirit box? I do a lot of ghost hunting channels, and sometimes quite interesting things come through them. Maybe it would have told you what you had seen. I don't know. I don't know, Rock. I really don't, because Bob bought one. I spent £100 on it, and it weren't. We didn't know whether it was some presets that it was throwing out. Bob Brown, when I say this, or whether you were getting something truly anomalous. And all I can say is it didn't last long. Weather conditions, I think, some corroded moisture inside it up at Bempton, and we gave it to Peter Masters. If Peter's in. Peter might comment if he's in. We call Peter our electronics expert, because basically that's what he is. So we gave it to Pete, hoping he would be able to fix it for Bob. And when he took it to bits, bearing in mind Bob had paid over £100 for it, he said there were about £10 worth of components, if that, inside it. So what you're saying there, Guns N' Roses, I'm not discounting. And if you know of something that's really good and more bona fide and genuine than something like what Bob unfortunately got, then yeah, I would probably consider it. I don't know. Right, let's have a look. What are your specific intentions with the 6 new cameras? Thanks, Space Cam. Well, we've probably got 3 of them facing in various directions, out to sea, up into the distance. We've got 3 of them on us because we've had interaction. We're hoping, like you've heard me say tonight, obviously, if we go to the observer point or the observer position, we're not walking like the other night, walk 6 to 7 miles, me and Chris. When we get to this location, we set up the cameras and we stay there. In the past, this is after what we called the visitation, that light that visited us. If we'd have had cameras fixed on us that night, and I know there's some people going to say, well, you wouldn't have seen it, would you, because you've got cameras on it? And I take on board what you're saying. You could be right, but what else can we do? It's difficult enough for Paul. as in myself, to sit here and tell you guys this with, in most instances, without a shred of proof about what I'm saying. But in that part of the course, at least with myself and Linny and Pete and other people that go up there, Chris Mack, you know, and I'm sorry if I've missed some names out there, but at least with other people that go up there, we are actually up there and actively doing it. I'm not just sat here looking at internet and scrolling through and think, I'll talk to them about this tonight. And, oh, look, this guy did that. We're actually doing it. We're actually having a go. And we're after giving back something in the form of substance for what we're talking about, if that makes sense. So, yeah, it's a good question, though. What are we hoping to do? We're hoping to capture some activity, hopefully, and it just adds a little bit more strength to what I'm saying now. Whether we do that, though, Space, is another question, because you're spot on. It's ironic, isn't it, that when we got the visitation, we turned the cameras off. It had just starting to rain and we were going to pack up. We were going to go. No point in standing in it rain. And it were Ian that said, let's stay for another. It eased off a bit. He said, let's stay for another 10 minutes, another half an hour. You know, it's getting late, but we did. I'm so glad that we did. If he hadn't said that, we probably would have missed that. So once again, the cameras were off. So how do we do it? No cameras on other night. When I look down the path with the torch, there's a figure there, Chris. No camera on. And the GoPro, let's face it, or the DJI would not have picked it up. And I should have left torch on it and got a camera out. We can all say in hindsight what we should have done and what we shouldn't have done, but I didn't. So I don't know, if I turn it on and off, you watch it'll have gone. I'm joking. It's gone. Crazy. That was unnerving. Let's have a look. Amelia. All of the witnesses that I've told you about there, we will type shadow being encounters. Is there any similarity between the people? Have you noticed a type that's more likely to see something? Good question, Amelia. And no, but that would be interesting when we're talking about correlating sightings and setting up a database, excuse me, of people's sightings and experiences. That there's something that we could look for. You know, profiling a certain age group, maybe. Or have they recently, I don't know, had a bereavement, all sorts of factors that could put, because I think there's a conscious element to this. And I think a lot of people in chat probably are on the same lines, that there's some conscious feeling and interaction that we're getting with this unexplained phenomena. And it's interacting with us and it wants something from us, or we give it something that unknowingly, just like somebody said earlier, is it feeding off your energy? I think that's simplifying it. I think it's getting more than that. Is it actually living through us in some aspects? Yeah, I don't know. Feeding off our energy, but actually enjoying the highs, enjoying the lows, experiencing our experiences. You know, if there's something at the side of me and I don't know it's there, you know, it's clearly whatever it is, clearly there's another intelligence that's operating around us. And I don't just mean East and North Yorkshire, I mean globally. And we need to stop looking to the stars, although when you look at all them billions and billions of suns and stars up there, you can't help but realize that there's life out there. But why do we have to look for it there when people are reporting all of this incredible phenomena? And there's just literally no shortage of it, is there? I'm rambling, aren't I? Come on, Nathaniel Gillis, you better come in. No, I'm only joking. We've got a few more stories to tell. Dog soldiers, that's in caps, but they weren't about the film there, are you? Right, so let's have a look. Oh, you're not asking me to say that word. Oh, Brecon to you, thank you. Brecon is noted for its high strangeness and weird creatures. Yeah, I could be wrong. The Berwyn Mountains UFO that allegedly crashed 1974. Were that near the Brecon beacons? I'm not certain. You know, I live in my own little bubble, so I don't really get over involved in these UFO cases unless it's something that really interests me. But I'm not saying there's no merit in that, by the way. Let's have a look. Thank you for that. I'm glad you didn't make me say that word, because it wouldn't have sounded good. Let's have a look. Michael. Let's have a look. Michael Smith. Paul, walked Densdyke 2 weeks ago. What do you think they're trying to keep out, as I feel it would be quite a task to breach? Oh, as in what Michael's referring to, for anybody that's either new to the chat or new to Truth Proof, is that quite close to where I live, there's an earthwork called Danes Dyke. I think that's what you're referring to. And it's 2.5 miles of earthwork that's in some places. You look at these books, and even the older books, and they'll say it's 15 to 20 feet in places, Danes Dyke. It's not. It's 30 to 40 feet in places if you go to places that are a little bit more inaccessible on north side. But that's beside the point. This earthwork, which is Neolithic, it's 3,500 years old, 2.5 miles it cuts across the mainland. And to think that those people built that or constructed this earthwork with bone and antler tools and your hands, that's an incredible feat, isn't it? Don't you think? What were they trying to keep out? Were they trying to cut Flamborough Head off from the mainland? I don't know. If so, why? Because it's not great arable land. It's not great land for growing stuff. It's juts out this peninsula into the North Sea, Flamborough Head, and there's no forests or great woodlands. There's nothing of any great significance. It's a beauty spot. It's a beautiful place. But what were they trying to keep out? I noted, and that the people that have seen this fur-covered bipedal creature that we know can't reside there as something flesh and blood, but we also know there's something there. And to deny people's reports just because some people can't bend their heads around it is not what I'm going to do. But I noted that the main focus of the sightings has been on what I've called the intersections. So there's 3 sightings near the main road. There's only one road that runs into Flamborough. And it's the road where they've cut through the earthwork and put a main road through. There's another sighting, and I think Michael's in chat, where he saw it near the next intersection, which is the road out of Danes Dyke, where they've cut through the earthwork. So it's interesting, almost as though they've disturbed something on the land, maybe. And what is interesting as well, you go back into ancient Egypt, and you go back to other great deities, or you go to the Mayans, I think it was Exol or Zoltol, and then you've got Anubis. They're all dogs, they're all creatures, or part dog, part human creatures that do you think they're placed there and talked about and documented throughout history? We may as well do that. Or do you think there's a reason that these dog creatures were put in these places? I mean, Anubis was a guardian of the underworld, wasn't he? And safe passage to the underworld. I think there was something about your heart had to weigh less than a feather, and if it weighed more, which we always were going to do, weren't it? You didn't have safe passage to the underworld. Somebody's going to correct me. I'll not got that quite right, but it's close enough. Right, what are we keeping out? Let's have a look. I don't know what we're keeping out, but I think you're right. It's an interesting place. Jonathan Chapman, do you think iron? A lot of people say iron is a repellent, and a lot of old farm sort of superstitions would be to drive an iron stake into a field, a corner of a field, iron around their beds, iron worn in jewelry. But that's the reason for a horseshoe. It's not just the significance of a horseshoe. People say it's lucky. It's iron, and you put it on your door to ward off. I won't say evil spirits, but just to repel. I don't know, bad nature spirits or something like that. So it's fascinating. There's a field in East Yorkshire. Now I'd have to speak to Steve Ashbridge. I've looked at it on Google Earth, and there's a little field, a little triangular. It's fenced off as a little triangular area of a big field, and they don't do anything with it. It's not because they've turned it over to a wild meadow, but there's been sightings of the Fae and other things and earthlights around this bit of field, and it's only the family who own it that have observed it, and a few other people. And likewise, I mean, I probably wouldn't get to see it because they may fear that I'm going to sit here and tell you guys, which could open the gates to a lot of people going on their land, couldn't it? But let me just tell you now that if somebody says don't say anything, I won't. Simple as that. We've just jumped from iron there. We've gone all over the place. And Nathaniel Gillis might not be coming because he's 4 minutes late. And I did send him a link, but it doesn't matter. We can still cope with this, can't we? Yeah. and I like Nathaniel. I tell you what, you can't get. I had spent quite a bit of time with him when he came over to UK, and yeah, Nathaniel Gillis. I don't like him really, you know, and just come in now. No, I spent a bit of time with him when he came over to UK, and absolutely great guy, and a lot of knowledge, so much knowledge. So I'll just take this cup of tea off my wife, and then we'll get Nathaniel in. Thanks, Mary. One sec. Right, shut that door. Larry Grayson used to say that, didn't he? Right, so thank you, guys. Let's have a look. We've got going on for 430 people here, and if you've got any questions, I'm going to scroll right down. If you've got anything for Nathaniel, then, you know, just get ready and share it with us. So I'll bring him in now. Hello, Nathaniel. How are you doing?
What's up, buddy? How are you, man? It's great to be here.
It's great to see you. I did tell everybody that you were coming, and here you are. So what's been happening in between the time we last met?
Oh, my God. A little bit of everything, actually. Still in the field, still doing research extensively, working with Mr. Steve Mera, trying to nail down anything we possibly can about this phenomena. And at the same time, trying to keep our heads above water, not to attract the attention of this thing. So we sit on the knife's edge of experiencing it, researching it, and then somehow surviving long enough to capture data. So it's you know, it's been quite a ride, Paul. But
well, let's just jump straight into it, because there was something you said then, trying not to catch the attention of the phenomena.
Yeah.
So do you think by highlighting certain aspects, do you think there's parts of the unexplained phenomenon, there's parts of it that I won't say get annoyed, but don't want you to highlight, don't want you to expose?
Yes, this that concept was first hypothesized by Jacques Vallée as the quote-unquote control system. I would liken it to the Truman Show, if you guys are movie buffs out there, where Truman doesn't realize that he's in a construct. He doesn't realize that everything around him is almost being controlled as stagecraft. And so anytime he sees beyond the construct, anytime he realizes that that car goes by him every day at the same time, once he sees through that and he actually starts to poke around, then you see people who are in charge of the construct start to, you know, you don't look over here, just stay right where you are. And that's happened with experiencers. It's happened especially with researchers. I know of a case in the 1970s with Professor Renee Hardy. It's one of my favorite cases. Unfortunately, it's very dark, but it shows us how far the phenomenon is willing to go to stop us from releasing data. But he was a famous professor. He had many, many scientific patents, and he was researching this phenomenon for a long time. He had come to a conclusion and was due to release his thesis for a peer review. And the night before he was due to release that paper, his family found him deceased, and they didn't know what happened, Paul. He would have never done this to himself. What is going on here? And so it was that at the funeral, everybody's pouring in, his students, his faculty members, his family members flying from out of town, out of country. And then at the very moment before the funeral starts, in the pregnant silence, the doors open and in files in 5 or 6 very tall, very thin, very well-dressed men. And so at the conclusion of the funeral, as families do, they go back home, they're conversing with each other. Those gentlemen were very nice, weren't they? Yeah. It was good to see Uncle Tom, too. He's looking better now. I know he's getting a little bit up there in age. He's like, no, let's talk about the men. Who were they? And so finally, they all got together and they said, well, I don't know who they were. They seemed very nice and cordial, very well dressed. Who were they? What did they even look like? So they go back to the footage, Paul, and they never showed up on camera at all. So that's how far the phenomenon's willing to stop us from getting too close to it. And it puts us in the position as researchers and experiencers to literally have to do enough research, like I said, to capture data, not just data, but data that's relevant. And then when we do that, we have to pull back and then cut off all communication and all research, and then just go kind of be humans.
Yeah.
Hopefully, hoping that the phenomenon doesn't see us. So there's that knife's edge. But that's what I've been up to, brother. And it is so good to be back on with Truth Proof. I love you guys with all my heart. It's great to be back. And thank you for the opportunity, Bum.
No, you're welcome. And you've got your own show now, haven't you? Just tell us a little bit about that. I want to just ask you something else.
Yeah. So I'm doing Parasymposia. It's my own platform now. I've done hundreds and hundreds of interviews the last probably decade. And there's so many of them that people are like, Nathaniel, I just want to see them all in one location. I don't have to go everywhere else. I want them all there so I can kind of binge watch them. So I'm going to be putting them on parasymposia.com. And that's going to be the free content. Then, of course, if people want to donate or if people want to join it, you'll get extra content after that. In addition to that, I'm doing the NHI discussions with the great and phenomenal Steve Mera. And that's ongoing, and it's fascinating stuff, man. So I'm doing a lot.
Yeah, well, that's brilliant, because I've not put your name in the thumbnail, but after the stream tomorrow, if you can send me the links,
absolutely,
I'll drop these links in for people to chase up on now, if that's okay. Right then, do you think UFO encounters, demonic manifestations, and paranormal are coming from the same intelligence?
100%. And modern ufology has been hijacked by secular materialists. And what they're trying to do is disconnect us from the source material. Everybody knows Aleister Crowley, everybody knows Jack Parsons. Nobody's really ever talked about Marjorie Cameron. Marjorie Cameron, right? The elemental that they allegedly conjured, who had no idea what they believed, what they were doing. And she walks into their lives. Well, she performs her own ritual and she witnesses a UFO or a UAP. And she, even with her paintings and her art, she also believed that what we're dealing with is kind of the same thing. And I know that even within the American government, that there are whistleblowers that aren't kind of beholden to the materialist secular worldview. Their worldview is more esoteric, and they understand full well that this stuff began in the back and down in the dungeons of seances, and that's where this phenomenon was most manifested. And but that's where I sit. Now, I'm also kind of diverging and deconstructing from a lot of models I inherited in my youth. The problem is we do not understand what we're seeing, Paul. We cannot virtually comprehend it. And when the phenomenon manipulates our perception of it, we attach form to it.
Right. And do you think the form that we're attaching to it is what fits into our cultural belief systems?
Of course, cultural uniforms. And the problem, though, is that we're sitting here looking at the data and saying, okay, there's a reason why the phenomenon wants to be seen. It seeks to be seen in many cases. And then by the time we observe it, it makes a conscious connection with us. It tailors itself to our neurology. Right. And then all of a sudden now the interface shows up and we think, okay, that's a ghost, that's an alien. Well, I mean, I'm to the point now where even some of the UAPs people are witnessing may not at all be what's there. Yeah, and Coulthard recently came out with that, and I've been theorizing that as well. Gary Nolan's case study, but you guys got to bear with me. I do so many interviews, so if you guys have heard this on my other shows, you didn't hear it on Truth Proof yet with me, so just give me some leeway. Gary Nolan, a pathologist, had a case study in France where a young boy was in his car with his family, and he's looking through the sunroof at the sky. And he's telling his family, I'm seeing this massive structured craft. And he gives them a vivid description of what he's perceiving, the form of it. And she thought to herself, well, I have an iPhone. I'm going to take a photograph of this. It's a good camera. Click. And there was a difference between what her son was perceiving. I'm talking about a profound difference.
Yeah.
Between what her son was perceiving with his eyes and what the camera was capturing. Two different objects. Now, the problem is, which one of those objects are real?
Was the real deal? Probably both of them.
It could very much be. And I'm theorizing now, at least in my research, that it's possible that that fixed form was there to attract the conscious connection of the child. So something else can actually bleed through consciousness and manifest in this dimension. So it's possible one or both of them are real. But let's take that concept and I mean go back into not as far as antiquity, but let's go back to the Middle Ages, my friend. And if in fact all we saw of the phenomenon is what we perceived, and if that was a physiological construct, if that was just an image that this thing is projecting into our mind, then it's possible, and I say this with all conviction, we may have been mythologizing the mask for the last 200, 400, 500 years. And if that's true, bud, you've got to sit down with this thing and think, oh my goodness, have we ever truly seen it?
What do you think its ultimate goal is, Nathaniel? Because like you've just said, it's been going on since man first started documenting the phenomena. Do you think its objectives and its goals have changed over hundreds, if not thousands of years? Or has it just adapted as we've progressed as a species?
I think the interface has evolved according to our awareness of it, what we see.
Right.
But that doesn't mean that something else isn't there. And let me say that there is something there that has been with us since the dawn of recorded history and probably before. But to me, if you were to ask me straight up, okay, Nathaniel, what do you think this is? I think it is a control system designed to maintain the construct we are existing in. Think of an artificial habitat. When those who are in charge of it go into it, they adjust things, right? The problem is we don't always see the adjustments. And when we do see them, in many cases, it's the interface. It's a mask. It's not really what they are. And so here lately in my own research, I'm coming to the conclusion where I'm taking all of the forms, placing them right here and say, okay, what is their function? What are they doing? Because I've had cases of people that thought they were abducted by extraterrestrials and they woke up with sigils on their skin. And the problem is just like that case study of the boy, right? What they're seeing doesn't add up to some other elements in the experience. Why would an alien gray be using an occultist sigilization on that victim? Because one's a form, the other's a function. And so my model, at least right now, is that, yes, we do live in a construct, and whatever these beings are seem to understand that, and they're able to manipulate our perception of them so that, and I've said this in times past, they could be present with but absent from. What's present with us is their mask. And what's beyond that is what they're actually doing. And but that's where I'm at right now. And I'm not claiming to have all the answers. If anything, I have all of the ADHD questions, Paul.
What do you what are they? And that's I don't mean it's not a simplistic question. What are they? But I think we all, or a lot of people, imagine things as being bipedal, arms, legs. But what do you think the form of these things are? Do you just think that they can manipulate and be any form that they want?
Yes, at least in the projection of an image in our mind. But I mean, let's get back to what are called pre-archetypes or pre-manifestations. Those are, of course, your orbs, your balls of light.
Yeah.
And I just did a show on the confessionals, and I was trying to hit this point home because a lot of people seem to miss this particular behavioral pattern. But orbs are witnessed everywhere in the field. They're in ontology, they're in ufology, they're
everywhere. Absolutely, that thread of the orb runs through all aspects of the unexplained, doesn't it?
Absolutely. And I do not think that they can be claimed by a single religious system. Think of it this way. Think of a tornado. Where are tornadoes at? Well, pretty much everywhere, or at least the weather has the ability to produce them. Yeah. I can't say, well, my religion says a tornado's this. No, it's everywhere.
Yeah.
They're everywhere for that matter. And, they're in Chris Bledsoe's case where he's being followed by a man. He hears the footfall of another human and he turns around, it's an orb. Or you can go to Steve Mara's research where an orb is actually transplacing audio as an EVP. Or we can go to Dr. Barry Taft's case studies, right, with the St. Peter haunting where it's actually projecting an apparition. The thing is this is one of the ways this phenomenon is diversifying itself in our presence. Number one, why? Forget about the capabilities. That's an entirely different show, my dear friend. Think about the desire to do that. I want to project a construct. Why? Because it's hoping that we'll go home mythologizing the construct. We'll have a conference about it, right?
Yeah.
We'll sell T-shirts about it. And then we don't realize that there's something else present that we're not really understanding or even focusing on.
There's still got to be a reason. You said why.
Yeah.
We'll go home and have a conference about it. We'll theorize about the ins and outs of this presence of the orb. But what does it get? Surely it wants more than that.
Mm-hmm. Well, again, we're just now starting to get into the research of how it sustains itself, but the idea is that it needs to. Now, I do, many cases, reference instances in the field where it does act like a program, or the construct itself it's projecting is almost serving the orb's ends. The orb has intention. It's projecting the construct. The construct does what it does and then feeds back into the ball of light. Now, there was a paper that was published by our own federal government dealing with what are called plasmoids, orbs. And as much as I try to highlight their presence in all of the field, there is an area that nobody really touches, and they exist in outer space. They exist in the moon. Our own governments captured them on camera. And not just that, but in the sky. Now, here's something that'll blow some people's minds, is that, it's one thing to see them in ufology, all that. That's cool. But they have film where these things are cannibalistic, Paul, where one orb will go and absorb the other one, and that other one's never really seen again in that encounter. So whatever we're looking at seems to be another life form. Now, I can tell you this much, that because there are so many intimate connections to the occult with this thing, I'm now starting to dig up the possibility that we're dealing with collapsed consciousness, where a practitioner will perform a ritual, collapses her consciousness into an electromagnetic ball of light, and then use that to interface with as an alter ego. Now, that's not my theory. That comes from many occultists, Israel Regardie, Hans Barden, even recently Peter Carroll in his book Liber Null, where you're dealing with somebody who has the ability to, first of all, it's called vaulting by Franz Barden, where the practitioner will project intention and consciousness and will manifest an electromagnetic pulsating ball of light. And then from that ball of light, it's called vaulting into a form. And that will create another entity that we interface with. Now, that's not just those other occultists saying that in theory. But I've had cases, again, one of Dr. Carla Turner's late cases before she passed, where this woman's laying down on the couch in the living room, her family's with her, and they see this translucent cloud manifest in the hallway. It's moving slowly. It's filled with balls of light. It's amazing. It follows into the living room, and it descends slowly down upon the mother. Here's form against function. And about 45 minutes later, she wakes up. I was abducted by aliens. Really? How do you know that? Because you didn't go anywhere. Like, where did that experience actually occur? She goes, no, they took me and they did things to me. And she's like, and that was definitely an extraterrestrial. The problem was that she woke up with Theban iconography covered on her body from head to toe. Okay. And that was the case study that Dr. Carla Turner turned her into the direction of, are we dealing with jinn? Right? And it kind of pushed her into demonology and perhaps asking, okay, my point though, is that we are using form to determine function. But if in fact that wasn't a occultist doing that, it would have been him collapsing himself into a form. Meanwhile, within the biofield is the function. And so, and we can go into other case studies like that and some of the data, but I don't want to ramble here. But so my point is there are many connections here. And I think that if anything, in the next five years, maybe even less, we're going to start realizing that the occult is not a bug in the phenomenon; it's a feature.
Yeah, yeah. And a big feature in the phenomenon as well.
Yeah.
And did I tell you? I don't know if I spoke about the visitation that we had. Did I? Which involved an orb,
No.
and some people in chat were with me, 7
Mhm.
of us, and there's no ill intent as far as we could feel, and that's
Yeah.
something I'd ask you. Do you think we should go with our gut feeling? And I'll get to the orb in a minute.
Mhm.
When we're having interaction with these things, or do you think that we're being manipulated and tricked?
I think we have a few moments. Okay, so if it wants to manipulate us, it could.
Mm.
Now, the problem again is that, at least in the field, people are very binary with this, right? Well, it's either or. And I could tell you this with a surety that I grew up in Pentecostalism. I grew up in Christianity, a very, very strict sect of it. And when people told me about angels, Paul, guess what they referred to? They were like, I was in prayers, deeply in prayer, and this ball of light appeared. And I'm thinking,
I get it.
wait a minute. So, on one side, people are saying they're all demonic. On the other side, they're saying they're angelic. But I would say that if we are convinced of that, then they must also be UFOs or UAPs, because we have even whistleblowers who say that long before they witnessed a structured craft, they saw the ball of light.
Yeah.
So are they angels or UFOs? Right?
You make a great point. Here, close to home, and I know you'll get over this way eventually again. I know you will.
Oh, yeah.
The place I spend a lot of time, Danes Dyke, there's a legend, a story that goes back a few hundred years of the White Lady of Danes Dyke.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I've spoke to people in recent years who claim to have seen the White Lady of Danes Dyke, and loads of people have heard me say this, and I said, guess what they saw? A sphere of light. They've not seen the apparition. I think that we or the phenomena wants us, or some mechanism wants us to believe it's the flowing essence of some this ghost, but it's a sphere of light, essentially what they're seeing. There's another one on the cliff tops, and the fishermen call it the ghost of big railings.
Okay.
And when you boil it down, they don't see the figure of a man. They see a light, and they perceive it as his light as he's walking along the cliff tops. So you're kind of on the money for me with what you're saying there, Nathaniel.
And again, it's the biggest issue I have with that behavioral pattern is, why are you diversifying yourself? Right? What is your intention with that?
Why is the phenomena diversifying itself?
Yes. Why would you project that construct? What's actually going on here? I just think
it
that
fits in with the human belief system, doesn't it? It fits in with what we want to see. The other part of it, the sphere of light.
Oh, yeah.
It don't fit, does it?
So I'll tell you what's so fascinating about all of this. So I've been toying around with whether or not the observer effect plays a role in these interface events. And, because there's one school of thought, you've heard this, I've had people on your show that said this, well, we are the creators of the phenomenon, and your intentions with the phenomenon will determine the phenomenon's intentions with you. But I think that's limited to form, not function, because I know plenty of people that wanted love and light from the phenomenon and would never sigilize the phenomenon, Paul, but they got sigilized by it. So we have to take that and throw that away, at least from my perspective, but say, okay, is it possible that we're getting things confused here? That just because we co-create the manifestation, projection, all that, does not mean that we co-create the function of the form. And when people they conflate that, and it works until people analyze it and say, no, it doesn't. That doesn't make any sense at all. Now, the weird thing about this is, if in fact we do take the observer effect into consideration and say, well, what happens is the phenomenon seeks to be seen. Once we observe it, it changes its behavior. Well, that implies, again, I want to make sure everybody understands where I'm coming from here. We've had cases, again, for instance, that case study I mentioned earlier, the mother perceived an entity. The two other people there perceived a biofield, a translucent cloud of energy. Okay, we've had cases with Dr. Carla Turner. It's everywhere. It's rampant through the field, where multiple people see multiple things. Why? Because multiple people are observing it. So in theory, you could have one entity. In what's happening is because we have multiple observers, we're collapsing it into different manifestations, different forms, right? The problem is that many of these forms are familiar to us.
Yep, absolutely, yeah.
So what that implies is that the phenomenon is in control
Of
of
everything.
what we collapse it into.
Mm.
So yes, it takes us to observe for it to collapse. That doesn't mean we're not. What I'm saying is we may not even be in control of the form anymore.
No.
It's the phenomenon, right? Seeks to be seen. Once we connect to it, it goes, okay, collapse me into dear Aunt Edna, Paul. Collapse me into something that I can use, in many cases, use to manipulate you.
Yeah, something that you can relate to.
Absolutely. And so there is the co-creation of the interface. And this is, I've said this for years now, where there's a period of time after seeing the phenomenon to where it no longer manifests to you. It's now manifesting through you. And somewhere within that interface time frame, free will is overridden. Your instincts are shut down. Your fear and your fear mechanisms done. And next thing you know, can we even trust what we see? Because the phenomenon's in control at that point. So that's what I'm saying, where I have to back up as a researcher and say, do you really know what you saw?
Yeah.
Right. So that's where I'm at, buddy.
And this is something you'll have thought about lots of times, I would have thought, but when somebody has a bereavement, and I've spoken about this before, so a lot of our listeners will know where I'm going with this. And for a period of time, the loved ones are concentrating on that person and the essence of that person, the happy times, the sad times. And then you'll often get people reporting that they've seen that person, have looked out of the window and they're there, and then they're kind of evaporated, or they've been at the bottom of the bed. Do we actually trust that that's what we're seeing, or is it the phenomenon?
I would not at all.
It collapses though somebody's world. Sorry for butting in there, Nathaniel, but it shatters somebody's worldview though, or view that they've seen a loved one, doesn't it? With what you're saying and what I'm saying.
I'm going to give you a rather chilling case study from a book called Deathbed Visions, written by a man named William Barrett. And for, I think, 20 years, he documented visions of the very, very sickly. And he had very chilling case studies, Paul. I mean, stuff that would make the skin on you crawl. It's like, what in the world? It doesn't fit.
Oh, don't get us closed down. Just
no. But yeah, cases where where people are witnessing others that have passed on. They didn't know they passed on, Paul.
That's right.
And that person's actually saying, why don't you go and give up? Don't fight. Don't even take your medication anymore. Form versus function. Would that loved one want me to give up? No. So who and what is it? Right.
Yeah.
Even to the point where one person said that his 8-month-old brother, right, was the one. Like, first of all, he can't even speak, Paul. And yet he's talking to this person saying, hey, man, just, give up. And it's like, no. So I question everything and anything at this point, because if they're willing to take the appearance of a baby, then they're willing to take the appearance of anything and everything they possibly can.
Yeah.
So but getting back to this sustaining mechanism, I do believe that belief plays a role in this. I am in possession of a document. I'm just going to read it to you because this is really freaky. Okay.
Oh, man.
Okay. Dealing with this idea. So this is actually from Whitley Strieber in one of his books, and he just references it just shortly, but I'm like, I'm going to add that to my work because there's something to this. It's about a document. When I asked him about the secrecy, his answer was quite revealing. He said that he had heard that a memo had been written in the early 50s, speculating in a quite unsettling way about why there had been no invasion after the surge of UFO sightings that began in 1947. The memo theorized that obscure laws of physics might prevent them from entering our reality without first convincing us that they were real.
There you go.
So belief plays a role in this. Do you
Yeah.
believe in the image I am projecting? Yes. Then you are now empowering the intelligence that's projecting it. That's where we're at. And that connects the form to the function. Can I go into this real quick? And
Please do. Yes. You've got
All
the
right.
chair. It's good. We'll
All
have a
right,
look at a few questions then.
Okay. So years ago, I had a case study. And she's a lady that was taken by these entities since her youth. And I've mentioned this in times past, but I'm hoping to connect dots here for everybody, at least those who follow the work and who are new to this. Belief plays a role, but she was being taken by her favorite cartoon characters. Ooh. And for the longest time, she said an intelligent electricity would manifest in my room, and I would prepare myself emotionally to be kidnapped by creatures. And she said, they would take me and do experiments and everything and whatever. But my point is, years later, she said they just stopped taking me for about 2 or 3 years. And she's like, now I'm tall, I'm matured, I'm into boys now. I don't want to read comic books, And she's like, and then one night I'm getting ready for bed and I feel that same cryptic energy moving. And she said, and there they were. One of them is in the room and it's there. And now it's my favorite cartoon character. But she said, what was so funny to me was, of course you're not Mickey Mouse. Right? Of course you're not that character. That's kind of stupid. Like, and I know I'm not crazy. There is something there. There's something in the sky, but it's wanting me to believe it's something else. Entirely. It's diversifying itself.
What was its reaction?
Oh, this is so fascinating. You're going to love this, buddy. So she said, I laughed in my mind and I realized I do not believe in your image. That's the form, guys. And what it did is it leaned into her, its eyes expanded, and they began to move back and forth. And she said, Nathaniel, this is going to be the craziest thing you probably ever heard, but it was measuring my belief in it. Look at the memo. So what it does is if you believe in the form, you will empower its function. And she said what it did was it was trying to improvise. She's like, but my mind was blank and I didn't give it anything to step into. And so that's when it was just like, oh man, left.
Yeah. Seriously, I can relate to that. And
So
I'm sure
funny.
people in chat, there's a lot to be said for Steven Spielberg's Taken. Can you remember? We were talking about
Yes. Yeah.
the little girl, I can't remember her name. I could last week, but she used to walk away with squirrel nutkins, didn't she, into the night when she was being taken. She was being shown something that she could believe in.
Absolutely.
Dakota Fanning, weren't it? That's who it was. And I came back, years ago now after the sheep fatalities when I was getting up at 4 in the morning and going onto those fields. And Mary had quite a profound experience at about in early hours when I were away. And when I got back about 8 o'clock, she said something really strange has happened. And it's the craziest thing. I mean, if she's listening to this, she'll be shaking her head saying, don't tell them this again, Paul. She said, I woke up in 4 or 5 in the morning.
Yeah.
I'd left. She said, and along the top of the wall, in between the ceiling, but it kind of went onto the ceiling. She said, I could see the characters from Scooby-Doo.
Wow. She
said, and I'm looking at them, and they're looking at me. She don't do any drugs, don't even smoke cigarettes. And she told me this because when I was writing one of the books, I was going to write, Night People, obviously, because it was about me on it. And Carl, who did the publisher, and I wrote Scooby-Doo as a chapter, and he went, Scooby Don't.
I love it.
Scooby Don't. Awesome. And but I'm not going to deny the experience because I believe my wife. She don't come out with things like that. Strangest thing to say. But can I just drop a question in here?
Go for it,
Nathaniel. Let's have a look. From Zen. Hey, Nathaniel, I've often imagined that our entire reality is in fact a Truman Show, Hunger Games mixture operated by HNI. We appear to be highly sophisticated EM extraction realm akin to a lab. Any thoughts?
Yes, I'm a huge fan, of course, of that model. I am a big movie buff too, so of course Jim Carrey's, Truman Show is amazing. If you haven't watched Dark City, watch Dark City. It's the predecessor to The Matrix. Had a much lower production budget, or it would have eclipsed The Matrix, by the way. So watch that movie, watch the director's cut, and that is more along the lines of my model of the phenomenon. This reality is being manipulated by post-human practitioners, and they're appearing as extraterrestrial to hide their rituals. That's a whole nother show, brother. But yes, that's a little bit of what we're dealing with. And our government knows that, from at least I believe they do. And I think that some of them are, in fact, in contact with them. Now, Kenneth Grant wrote a book called Outside the Circles of Time, and he wrote about this specific nuance where he said that in times past that these beings were worshipped as divine. And they were demigods, he said, but here soon they will no longer be called semi-divine or demigods. They will be called extraterrestrial. Now, those are two models of the phenomenon, right? And they're mutually exclusive, matter of fact. But right in the middle of them, here comes Kenneth Grant and goes, and by the way, we have their sigils. So it's connecting both of them together. Yeah. So there is this again, but I do believe, again, the model would be more along the lines of Dark City, where you have a species of practitioners who are doing their best to either moderate, dictate reality, or they're fighting for control over it. And I don't want to get too deep into that darkness, but
okay.
Yeah.
So it's still okay with another question?
Go for it, buddy. I would love it.
Before you answer this or attempt to answer it, I'm still waiting for Trump to release the UFO files. I want to ask on back of this one, do you think then that, I'm not just saying the American government, do you think that the governments, the power elite of the world, actually know what they're dealing with? Include it with this question.
No.
I'm glad you said that.
Let me say this real quick. We are being spoon-fed a carefully curated narrative of non-disclosure. Let me say it like this. When I say, Paul, if I was a mainstream ufologist, buddy, and I said, listen, we are in the possession of non-human biologics, you would be like me and think they have bodies, right? It's not true. Michael Aquino was in a conversation years and years ago with Peter Levenda through an email, and they were talking about the Majestic 12 documents. And out of nowhere, Aquino mentions non-human biologics. And Levenda picks up on it. You know what you just said? He said, Levenda mentioned this on Jesse Michael's show. You know what you just said, Michael? And Michael's like, I have no idea what I said. Non-human biologics. Are those bodies? What's going on? And Aquino kind of laughed. He said, no, I don't believe any of that UFO stuff. Uh-oh. Right? Because Michael Aquino is an ex-Satanist. He created his own church of Set or SETI. I don't know, just throwing that out there, right? You see where I'm going? And that's who was in contact with Levenda. And so they're talking, and Michael Aquino, working for the government, right, says, well, he goes, non-human biologics, like, that doesn't really mean what you think it means. What we mean by non-human biologics is that any craft or anything that re-enters the Earth's atmosphere, if there's any organic material clinging to it, anything, even if it's a spaceship, we call it non-human biologics. They say that to us because they know we're going to think one thing, go with that. When behind closed doors, they're kind of like, wasn't that funny? They don't even know what we mean by that. So are they telling us the truth? Yes. They're just not giving us the definition of the words, definitions of the words they're using.
Well, just before we go on, I see our Laura's in. That's my youngest daughter. She did say she'd try and get in. She's been working. Good to see you, Laura. Right. This guy, never seen out. He says, Mr. Gillis, am I fortunate in not having seen anything?
Yes, you are. And don't get regressed. How about that? Don't do any memory regression because you don't want to know. Basically.
So he's like never seen out, claims he's never seen anything, which is like you just said, that's quite fortunate. So do you think what I know it's maybe a sweeping question. What percentage of the population get touched by the phenomena? Do you think everybody does, but none of us remember, or very few?
That's the question proposed to Dr. Turner, and her answer was, well, we don't know. Because it's just like asking, okay, how many of us have been abducted? We don't know. The only reason we know, again, let's go back down to the Matrix and say, okay, how many people knew they were in the Matrix? We don't know. How many people have witnessed the black cat? And how many people how many people are able to understand what that black cat means? So it would take us seeing the glitches, right? Looking at the pattern and saying, okay, I'm going to remember enough to question it. Now, there's cases out there that I can go into, but it's too verbose, where people will sit there and view a UAP for 45 minutes through binoculars, only to realize, Paul, they never owned binoculars in the first place.
Yeah.
The phenomenon had hijacked the entire encounter. So, yeah, we really don't know, unfortunately.
Well, one more thing while it's on my mind, and it's probably nothing, but at 1 minute 28 in your room, which should be on your right-hand side, I'm hoping other people might have seen it. There's a little light that just appeared, just flicked up. I did see it.
Yeah.
I think I did, and I've said it before odd times when I've been in here and people have picked up on it. So there you go, 1 minute 28. I'm not saying exactly, just around that time. If people want to have a look at that, let's have a look. Christopher, I think it could be a natural force that has been here since the beginning of time and shows itself to something we can relate. Yeah, well, I think that's, I think Nathaniel's, that's what you've been saying over and over, and I think that's where we're at with this. And how many researchers do you think, not a number, but people that are stuck in their ways, I don't know, MUFON and cryptid researchers who won't move out of this sort of segregated box because they don't realize that there's a thread of the same running through it. Do you think, have you seen it opening up, Nathaniel? Do you think there's more people realizing this now?
I've been told, even as far as today, that people are looking into this more and more.
Yeah, absolutely.
The problem is you have people, and I can understand, Paul. I mean, think about it. You got people that have been in the field 40, 50 years, and they've written 30 books on one theory. And
they don't want to change, do they?
Paul, can you imagine that, buddy? It's like, by the way, I was awful. It was really wrong. My bad. Like, it's just, it's.
Nathaniel, I've written Night People about my own experiences.
Yeah.
I've said in Night People, and I've said openly that I don't know whether these were aliens or demons.
Yeah.
That simplifies it. But if something happened that changed my worldview of what interacted with me, I would change that book in an instant. I wouldn't be so set in stone that, oh, I can't ever do that now. I can't change my mind now. I've said this. I'm quite happy to be wrong,
Well, yeah, and that's the evolution of a proper researcher, because I guarantee you, even though that theory, your theory, would have evolved, you would still take those ingredients, right, of the previous generation of research and books, say, okay, yeah, this is what led me to this position. So you would have an anthology to your own theory, and I think that's vital. But there are people that are even financed by the government to give me all of your research. I want to know all of your organic conclusions, but I also want to purchase your voice. Right. So you're going to go say A, B, and C, which is what we want you to say. Meanwhile, in closed doors or in a skiff, we want to hear the raw data. Be straightforward.
The reality.
Yeah. And I'm sure there are plenty of them out there. But I don't really care. I'm to the point now where it is what it is, Paul. I've been in this field for a while. And, like, I don't want to be world famous. I don't want to be on, it's kind of dumb, to be honest with you, Paul. I'm after the data. Because within me, there is that terrified 8-year-old that's still living in that haunted house. And I'm trying to figure out for myself what happened.
Before I go to another question, then, how much of your life experiences as a child have influenced where you're at today?
All of it. All of them. It's funny because to this day,
but you must have thought different back then. Sorry for cutting through you there. But you must have thought different in the last 10, 15 years. I don't mean the experience has changed, but now you realize that something else was responsible for that experience.
Perhaps. So Yeah, there were two things going on at the same time in my youth, where I was going to a church, and manifestations were happening there. People were getting healed. Grew up Pentecostal, so they were very spiritual, very mystical in a sense. Um, but even though I was countering God there, I'm going back home to something completely different. I'm like, what is going on? So I had both worlds stuck in my mind. Uh, but it influenced me in the sense that it made me question it. There are some people, that some traditions, to say, okay, don't even question them at all. Just to take, that's ancestors. That's your Aunt Shelley, Nathaniel. She's here to help you. And so they will embrace that kind of manifestation. But what they instilled in me, even at a young age, was, yeah, you better question that. You better test that spirit, And I guess that's the biggest contribution, I should say, to my research. But getting back down to the phenomenology behind it, if in fact for 1,000 years we have been using our perception of the phenomenon to define it, then we are at a complete loss, Paul.
Yeah.
You've got to step back, deconstruct, have a conversation with the raw data and say, oh no, is it, again, are we mythologizing the mask? And not just that, but the phenomenon has inspired it. It's not, again, these are not mindless, unguided processes. It's not like it's okay agnostic in our presence. No, it's wanting us to believe it's an apparition.
How much of your research then, Nathaniel, has seen you, I don't mean in conflict, physical, but verbal conflict with researchers that have invested 20, 30, 40 years in a certain mindset, and you're literally just smashing that with a sledgehammer?
I'm going to be very, very blunt. If in fact it is on X or in a chat room, it's never to my face.
Yeah.
Ever. Because within about 30 seconds or 40 seconds, it would be, well, we're not even asking the right questions. And it would just be like, well, oh, crap. And I'm like, told you, bud. Told you. Again, it's just, the reason I got to this point, Paul, is because I got fed up with all of the narratives that I was being fed that were never reflecting the data. Ever. It was just, these are extraterrestrials and they're all from, they're all from Roswell. And it's like, no, they're not. They're seances, Doc. Get real with me. They're from seances. And and so I got tired of being lied to. And it's, again, people say I project my worldview. I didn't contact these beings. I didn't write Crowley's books. No, I didn't perform Jack Parsons' rituals. I didn't perform Marjorie Cameron's rituals. Matter of fact, guys, okay, so I don't like that narrative either, because it's like, that's really ignorant. But I'll tell you what it is. It's an excuse for people to ignore the research.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
Let's go with a question, Nathaniel, if you're okay. You're still good? 10 minutes, yeah?
That's fine, buddy.
Yep. John Paul Body. This guy's had some incredible experiences. I'll say that right from start. I've met this fella. Nathaniel, do you think that in the case of multi-experiences, they can start to see behind the curtain, so to speak, so that the perceived camouflage drops away, so the reality truth is revealed?
That would have to come with maturity and evolution. It wouldn't just simply come with, I experienced it. There's a lot of experiencers that are still encountering the phenomenon, but they're still trapped within even language, right? Well, I call it this, you call it that. But there is a way to teach that, and a way to test the spirit beyond just the form. And immediately, if I ever do, and I'm telling you, it's very, 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 very rare. I question everything, every form it takes. Now, the reason is because there are scenes in the dream, Paul. And if you can catch that scene quickly enough, that dream, that construct will glitch in and out, and it'll give you enough time to gather yourself and say, okay, what's actually going on here? It's the cartoon character that could not improvise. It had to appeal to a learning matrix, and that gave this young woman, that woman, enough time to say, oh, gotcha. If it's dear Aunt Edna, look at a behavioral pattern. What are her interests? What is she wanting you to do? Does it line up with who she was as a person? No, because the problem is the reason the deception is occurring is because the form doesn't match the function.
Mm.
If it did, right, you wouldn't have to take the form. It would just help you. And so there's something wrong with these interfaces.
Right.
And that's really where I'm at.
Right, I've got the 3 questions, if that's okay. Last one's going to be easy for you. You'll like the last one. Nathaniel, do you think a higher entity plans what happens on Earth? You can keep it fairly brief if you want. We've got 5 minutes.
Yeah, so we're dealing with foreknowledge. I do believe that some entities know the future. I can remember a document from Prague where this will trip people up. This is going to be amazing. People are like, what? Where a quote unquote demon was in Prague and they had chained him. How do you chain a demon? That don't make any sense. And they're walking him around. And he walks by a shoe keeper, a cobbler, and he looks right at him and says, basically, I'm going to kind of skirt around this issue. You guys can pick up what I'm putting down. You're not going to be here in a week. Prepare yourself. Your time is coming. It happened. So, foreknowledge.
Foreseeing.
Yeah. So that's what I'm like. Foreknowledge and everything. I do believe that some of these beings know the future. But foreknowledge does not necessarily mean they're in control of it.
No, absolutely. We've got a question here from Rick Allen. Does Nathaniel divide the NHI into biological forms and energy forms, or does he believe that they are constructed from another unknown matter or another life form?
Okay, so I'm starting to not believe in the government's narrative of non-human biologics merely because of the way they usually mean that. Now we're stepping into unknown matter or dark matter or what's called mind matter, to where tulpas can actually manifest. So let's get back into seances. So some theories regarding seances and mediumship is that the ectoplasm that creates the form is actually a projection of the person that it's coming out of. Mind matter. So even within seances, we're dealing with some kind of subtle matter, for the lack of a better term. I hate using that word again, where we've seen them come out of a ball of light and literally construct the tangible into thin. I'm talking about constructing a form that you can touch. Is it biological? No, it's not. Where if it is, it's something completely else. Is it matter? Yes, it is. And so we would consider them to be subtle bodies. Now we have to look at that phenomenology and say, okay, where do they originate? From the ball of light. Then what's that? Same thing, right? It's projecting something. So that's where I'm at. And I would be along the lines of a different kind of matter completely.
Absolutely. Thank you. Probably last question, and it's one that you're maybe going to like. I don't know. And everybody's just going to go, what's he on about? But do you like mushy peas?
Do I like her? I don't even know her, Paul. Oh my God. I'll tell you what, man. There was a day.
They want to know why I've asked that. They want to know why I've asked it.
Yeah. So let me give you a story of Nathaniel Gillis meeting the legend Paul Sinclair in Manchester or Bolton. And we're having fish and chips at the hotel, and we're just conversing, getting to know each other and bonding, hanging out. And they put on my plate some kind of green substance. You want to talk about a subtle matter? That was subtle matter. Some kind of green. It's ectoplasm, Paul. I'll tell you what it was. Okay, ectoplasm. You guys were trying to kill me. No, I'm looking at this. I thought it was guacamole, because here in the States we have guacamole, and I'm like, man, that's kind of weird. So I'm like, what is this? He's like, it's mushy peas. I can't do your accent, buddy.
Mushy
I'm
peas.
country, man. Mushy peas.
Did you enjoy them?
No.
No, right.
I
Okay.
gotta be honest. That was hard, man. But I love the fish and chips. That was great. I even had chips and gravy, which that was pretty cool too.
Yeah.
And thankfully, I think I needed an exorcism after having those mushy peas.
Well, I think we had a good time, didn't we?
Yeah. We had a blast, man. It was a blast.
Nathaniel, thanks for coming on and giving us an
Thanks,
hour.
buddy.
It's been brilliant. And I don't mean can we have you on next week, but in a few months' time, you're going to come on and share a bit of knowledge.
Absolutely. I would love to come on and just talk about everything and anything and enjoy your guys' presence. So thank you for everybody. And Paul, thank you for the invitation.
You're more than welcome. And thank you, everybody, for supporting us tonight. And good night. Bye-bye. Is this an adventure or what? We don't need unexplained phenomena. I hope you guys are enjoying this journey we're taking you on. I know you come expecting to hear about big cats, cryptids, UFOs. We will touch on some of that, but I think it's worth sharing some of this with you, don't you? There's only 2 living souls up here today.
Because I can see it in my mind, I can see it in my head what I saw, but I can't describe.
Our eyes was closed, like a brightish light in my face, and I just felt paralysed.
Someone said there's something out there, so we had a look. It looked like a walnut. That's the only way I can describe it.
It was like it had loads of tiny little windows all over it, and it had lights in those windows, but not a light that illuminates.
Anyway, we were ushered into this lounge. This fella come in and said, whatever you saw was a weather effect.
And everything is deathly silent. There's no sea, there's no wind, there's no night noise, because there's foxes all over here. There's nothing.